Our next talk is from two people just down the road in Lund. Please welcome to the stage from Veidekke, Emil and Joakim.
Thank you, Matthew, and good morning. I'm Joakim, that's Emil, for those of you who wonder. We are here representing a Scandinavian contractor and business or property developer called Veidekke. We are around 8,400 employees, operates in Norway, Sweden and Denmark. We're here to talk about what we call data-driven sustainability. And I guess that's what you need to know about us before we get started.
So it's always nice to follow Fred with a nice presentation, but we have memes. We're going to start with a few motivators on why we as a company need to think about sustainability, besides the fact that climate change is chasing us down and we're probably going to die. But otherwise, we have a few motivators for us as a company.
The most obvious one is maybe this one. The Sustainable Development Goals we heard a lot about from UN the last couple of days. But what you haven't heard is the news from last week maybe, that we actually got the first verdict in this matter. It was the third runway of Heathrow Airport who got in an appeal court blocked just on environmental goals. And that's the first time we see the agreement from Paris actually is taken into account. And I don't think it's the last one.
But if we move to a more national level, we in Sweden actually in 2022, we will have a government mandate from the government entity called Boverket that we will have to declare the CO2 emissions from all our new build buildings and constructions. As you can see here, it's only A1, A2, A3. And if you're not familiar with this concept, it's basically the building materials, transport, and production of the things that we put in our building. So it's actually US manufacturers that are responsible for this data. But we as a construction company needs to report it into the government. And that's only the start of it. We will continue down the whole construction process, but this is in 2022.
So here in the Malmö region, it's a lot of different players that don't think that the national mandates are enough. So they created a geographical game plan which they call LFM 30, which takes the agenda 2030 and makes it into more concrete actions. And as of today, there's around 300 different players involved and stand behind these initiatives. And it spans from, it's not only the process of the buildings, like from very early design to the operation, but it also includes regulations and initiatives around business model, incentives, and how you collaborate in the projects. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Whoa, close one.
It's fine. All right. And there's another big motivator that we see now is sustainability awareness. And we see in research articles, newspaper articles, and we see a lot of new mentions of climate change. And I think it's like a hockey club graph if you look back a few years. And of course, we have the Greta Thunberg effect that we're very proud of in Sweden, that everyone is more climate aware these days. But for us as a company, of course, we see that our customers are getting more sustainability aware. And you can see that during this survey that two-thirds of customers are willing to pay more for sustainable products. And that's not only for a car, an electric car. I think that in the near future, we will have more demands from our customers as well. And as you can see here, 9 out of 10 of consumers expect businesses to do more than just turn a profit. They want to see that the companies that they buy from actually has a sustainable agenda. And moving on, I think that we as employees also are very aware of the climate change that is happening. And if you look at this study from the US, and I think that these numbers are higher here in Europe and in Scandinavia, nearly 30% of the respondents say that it will be a deal breaker. They will not start working for this company if they don't have a sustainable agenda. And nearly 70% of the respondents say that a strong sustainability agenda with the company will encourage them to stay for the long term. So I think we can all agree that sustainability awareness is a big player in the future for us as companies. So what's Veidekke doing? We have a few initiatives that we want to tell you about. And first of all, we have a project in Stockholm called Cederhusen. It's completely made out of wood, or actually, well, except for the groundwork. But we do CO2 calculations on this project with the help of software called OneClick LCA. This is not the real number, by the way. But with the help of that, we can connect EPDs to our Revit objects, and we can calculate the CO2 output from the building quite easily. We started with the framework of the building, but we will move into the last design phase now and start doing that for the whole building. Ready?
Yep. If you look at your tags, name tags or badges, you see a little swan in the lower right corner. That's a swan. That's a Svanen. That's a Nordic eco-label. It's quite popular in consumer products, everything from shampoo to your dishwasher ingredients. But you could also do this for entire houses. Veidekke have been doing so since 2011. Where we took a strategical decision in our sustainability strategy that all our self-developed houses, multifamily houses, should be rewarded or labeled with that eco label, which means that we take into everything from raw material to products to the end house. For the users, you take it into account when designing and choosing. This is the first electrical excavator in the world. It has a battery pack of 3.5 tons. It can store as roughly 5 times the energy as a Tesla Model 3. And we have had the first prototype since a little bit more than a year ago and uses a few of them right now at our sites. They can work for between 5 to 7 hours without requiring a recharge. So pretty good, actually. And for all these initiatives and a few other ones, we, for the second year in a row, we came up on the CDP's A-list for climate. So it's a non-profit organization that each year ranks 7,000 companies approximately. And if you are in the top 2% of what you're doing, you get onto the A-list. And Veidekke did that for the second year in a row. So what's the problem then? It seems like we have a lot of good initiatives around the globe, locally here in the region, and also within the company. It's 70%. 70% of the money we spend on our sites, we either do through material or for subs. So that's a huge part of our revenue that we control through those two parts, which means that we can't own that part, but we need to be in control of that. And by doing so, we need to change the process. Today, it's really popular to make all decisions on site in the late stage of the project, but that's not going to work if we want to change these things.
Probably going to change sides.
All right.
Need to look at my notes. All right. So as a building or a construction company, we are actually responsible for the sustainability of our buildings. But I think we have to see that manufacturers are sustainable as well. So we need to see that data. And in the Cederhusen project that I mentioned, all that connection between the data and the Revit model is manual. So it takes a lot of time and effort. And as I said before, A1, A2, A3 is on the manufacturer side. And so that requires the manufacturers, you guys, to be transparent in your processes and actually share your data openly, both the product data and the environmental data. Because we, as a construction company, will also be accountable for what we put in our buildings. And then by extension, the manufacturers that provide us with their products will be accountable for their numbers. So in a not too distant future, we will actually stop using manufacturers who cannot provide us with proper EPDs. or don't have low enough numbers in their EPDs.
But for those who are left, we really will require accurate and relevant data, because all our decisions are becoming more and more data-driven. Which means that we need the data to drive our processes forward, but also put them together in different dashboards to take decisions from managers, from procurement, from all the different areas. As a few examples of where we use it, we make predictive analytics, where we try to gather real-time data to make insights. We use simulation, especially in the design phase, for making different simulations from the building and how it could work and should work. Of course, predictions of different issues occurring during the erection of the building are extremely important to know in advance. Project risks is a huge thing we need to manage as a contractor to lower those risks. And optimization. Up till now, we've mostly been optimizing from cost and time. That's the most important parameters. But from now on, even the CO2 emissions will be extremely important. So CO2 in engineering will come into place, where we will need to evaluate both time and money, but also how does it affect the building and the CO2 impact if we change the structure of the building, we change the facade material, or we even get windows with better insulation value. And for doing so, I don't really see how we can control and analyze these things without having accurate data connected to the model.
So to sum up, we have a lot of expectations. We have from customers, employees, we have mandates, we have certifications that we wish to fulfill. And there's a few initiatives, but we really don't think that's enough, not nearly enough to make us truly sustainable. But to make that all feasible, we need a digital transformation. We need digital product data, we need BIM objects to make all this automatic, because we want to automatically be able to certify us as a Svanen house. We want to automatically comply to the government mandates. And that's really what it takes in the end, I think, to be truly, ultimately productive and effective in the building industry. Thank you very much.